Okay, perfect. So let's see. So when I'm talking about using third parties apps or like websites, I'm talking about in terms of getting assets that you might need, like stock photos or in other cases like Premiere Music or things like that.
Mhm.
And then also Canva. So I
Yeah.
want to just start by saying that Canva is not like a competitor. We should see it as we're using it congruently. So the reason that I do like to use Canva is because sometimes when I'm on this computer, I can do whatever I need to do. And then when I'm on my laptop, I might not have the Adobe um, file, or I might
Mhm.
not even have the Adobe programs. So in
Right.
that case, that's what makes Canva like really cool is that you can work on it from whatever browser. Um, but it can't do what Adobe can do. So
Right.
you have to kind of work interchangeably. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to show you what I
Okay.
was working on today. So I'm going to go ahead and share that right now. So this is something that I worked on today.
Okay.
We needed signs done for, and I'm going to press W to get all the work stuff up. Um, I needed to create a sign rather quickly.
Yeah.
So I needed to use an older sign that I found. However, the older sign that was on was not the right orientation.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you first how we do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull up in, starting from scratch here. You're going to go to your folder and then you're going to just, in my case, I found an old sign that I wanted to use and kind of um, copy. So
Okay.
here's what I did. Here's a sponsorship sign that I knew that I liked the size of. So I'm going to copy that one and then go back to where I'm working. So in my case, it was dental day. I'm going to just create a new folder and call it Zoom Sesh. So I'm going to copy it into here. And then I'm also going to rename it. So in my case, I really needed a sign for a dental day this
Mhm.
week. So that's what I'm going to name it as. And then I'm going to click for it to open. So when I open it, this is the right size, but it's not the right orientation. And
Okay.
I know that because I want it to be horizontal. So I'm going to show you how to do it when you already have a working file as opposed to starting from scratch, where you can create a new file and then go in and change and do all of the settings. In this
Mhm.
case, it's when you already have a working file. So I want to take this and make it into something like that. So I'm
Okay.
going to go to File, Document Setup, and then I see that it's 22 inches by 28 inches. I could erase these numbers and switch them, or
Mhm.
I could just go to the right where it says orientation, click on landscape, and then boom, it does it for me. So I'm going to
Okay.
do that, and I'm going to deselect facing pages because I don't need a book, right? If I make a
Right.
second one, I want just a second page. So I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to click OK. So now I have my assets aren't fitting on the document, and that's
Mhm.
okay. So I'm just going to move everything around. I know that I don't need these sponsorship logos, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete those. And I did that by clicking and holding shift for all of them. And now I'm
Okay.
just deleting them. I'm going to click on this background and I'm noticing that I can't. So if I can't click it, that tells me that it's locked. So I'm going to go to
Okay.
my layers and then I'm going to click on this like caret
Yeah.
make sure it drops down, and then I do see that it's locked. So I'm just going to unlock that, and I'm going to go ahead and unlock this one too if I need to move that. So I could either do something like go to the corner and turn it.
Oh, okay.
So if I hold down Shift as I'm doing that, it'll get it so that it's kind of perfect in terms of like thinking if we cut it into like a pizza, the way a pizza is cut, it'll go just orient it along those cut lines.
Yeah.
If I don't hold Shift and I'm turning it, then it'll turn whatever degree I put it at. Excuse me.
Good.
And then a third option is to just move these ones. So whichever way is fastest,
Okay.
easiest. Okay, then I'm going to move this down. It's our logo. I'm going to put it to the corner here. I'm going to move this this down so I can see it. I don't need that logo, so I'm doing that. This isn't a thank you sponsorship sign. It's a welcome sign, so I'm going to change that to say welcome. I'm going to go back to my selection tool, and then I can move these things as well. I'm actually just going to delete them because I know I don't need them. But let's say, for example, you didn't want to delete it and you wanted to just use the same format.
Yeah.
So what I would do, this is also not completed here. So there we go. So again, that's the polygon. I don't want the shape, which is what this like ombre effect is. I just hit undo a bunch of times. I'm going to actually, let me see what that looks like. Sure, that looks good. But I want to change this photo. So I don't want to have to click it and then realize that I'm clicking the polygon. So that's why I'm going to lock it. Now, if I click it, it's going to give me the right selection, which is the image here. So if you remember, to change the image, it's Control D. And that's to place the image. So for example, let's say I want to change it to this photo with the hands, holding hands that we used in one of our previous projects. And then if you remember as well, it's Control Alt Shift E. That will get it to, kind of be
Is that like the right size? Yeah.
Right. However, it doesn't work because we don't have like a perfect square. So in this case, I'm going to double click until I get the image itself. And then there I can start rotating it. And I'm going to go to the corner to rotate it. And in this case, I'm not holding down Shift so that I can rotate it to, a specific angle that looks decent, right? So I'm gonna go with something like that. And then we can't just leave this like that either. So I'm gonna have to hold Shift as I drag this out for it to, so let's see where we're at. And I still have that not completed. So what I'm gonna do is press W so that I can see the working file again. I'm going to double click until my image is selected again. And then I'm gonna drag it out again while pressing and holding Shift until I reach a little bit outside the polygon here, which is our triangle shape. And then if I click out and I press W, I can see, okay, that's more or less what it's going to look like. I'm going to drag this out just a little bit this way. And again, if I drag too far out, then it's going to go outside of our shape here. Okay, I like that. And then I'm going to make this welcome a bit bigger because it's not looking good here. So I'm going to put it at 200. Let's see what happens. That's a lot better. And then I have this guideline from the last project that I just simply don't need. So I can either, um, let's see, because
Do you have to put that guideline in there or is it already there?
I put it in there it was from the previous project, but
Oh,
you
okay.
do put them on with the ruler. So like, let's
Okay.
say, for example, your InDesign is not displaying a ruler. You would go to view and then show rulers, Control R.
Okay, cool.
And then that's how you're able to drag down a guideline. So that's, for
Oh,
example, if you want to have assets right next to each other,
yeah.
perfectly aligned. Sometimes it
Mhm.
happens because you wouldn't be because you would want to use that because you wouldn't be able to perfectly align your assets. Like for example, I'm going to try to align welcome and the logo. And
Okay.
normally I would go to the right side. They're both selected and I
Mhm.
don't want them to align to the art or to the page. I need it to align to the selection, to
Mhm.
each other, right? What I have selected. So that's why I'm going to change that to the selection. I'm going to hit the top, align to the top edges, and then it did it, but did it really? What it
Yeah.
did was it aligned the boxes.
Okay.
So see how these boxes are perfectly aligned
Yeah.
up here at the top? Yeah. So it did it, but
Not really where
that
you
wasn't what I wanted,
wanted.
right?
Yeah.
So that's in that case, that's why you would use guidelines.
Okay.
And for a number of other reasons as well. And then you'd have to kind of just do this a little bit manually.
Yeah.
But then boom, when you're done, look at that. It's aligned, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why we do that. And then I'm just going to take this out by dragging it back up and then it's gone.
Okay.
So this welcome, obviously I don't want it down there. I'm going to put it down here. And then I don't know if this is centered or not. So I'm going to go to my properties. And
Yeah.
since it's the only thing that's selected, it doesn't make sense to align to the selection. I'm going to align it to the page.
Okay.
So that's here. And I'm going to hit the center one. And then boom, now it's aligned center. If I wanted to align it to the middle, then it'd be the vertical center. That's not really what I'm looking for. So I'm going to come back up. And then if I just check my work, sure, that looks okay. I could probably change that to something like a bold or extra bold, maybe even black. I like that. And
Mhm.
I do want it bigger, so I'm gonna go to 400. And then here it's showing up that it's not there and it's
Mhm.
giving me an error. But again, if you remember from last week, all we need to do is just extend the text box. So
Mhm.
if I grab this and I take it this way and take this one this way, maybe go down, up, I need to make it bigger. Okay, so that's huge. Let's go down to 300. Okay, that's better. Um, and then again, I want to align it to the center.
Mhm.
I'm gonna shorten this just because it can get a little bit annoying sometimes um when you have other assets that you want to click on. This
Right.
I'm gonna make it just a little bit bigger as well. And then again, it won't make the image bigger. You need to do that yourself. After I extended the rectangular frame box, I'm going to, make sure while it's selected, I'm going to do our trick, which is Control Alt Shift E, and that'll get it to become bigger. There you go. And then let's say that I want more text down here. I
Mhm.
could, if you recall, just click this, hit Alt and Shift at the same time and
Mhm.
drag down to create a copy.
Yeah.
But let's say I am not liking the drop shadow
Right.
so first let me change the text color. So again, if we go to the left here, we're going to have to make sure that this T is selected and not the shape. So we're formatting that. So I'm going to double click here, and then I'm going to take it to like this blue. Okay, boom. And I don't want that drop shadow. It worked up here, but it doesn't work down here. So I'm going to click it, go to the right. This is where I have my drop shadow. It's my effect. That's what that is, effects. I can either click here where it says drop shadow, or let's see, unclick drop shadow and then press OK, and then there it is. Or I can click the effects and then unclick that. Oh, okay. It's going to take you that way as well. So I guess it's easier just to click drop shadow first. Okay. And then I'm going to change this to say something else. Let's say esteemed guest. And I'm going to give it a little bit of like variety here. So I'm not going to use the same font, and I'm not going to use the same font size. So I just guessed. A lot of this is guesswork. But I did just 150 because that was half of that. That sounded good. Looking at what I see, I'm gonna do a sort of cursive-y or something with more serifs on it. I really like this one. That looks good.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to make it maybe italicized, maybe bold. That looks pretty good. Black italic seems pretty good. I don't like that it's all capitalized. So in the same properties panel right here, I'm going to deselect that all caps.
Okay.
And then I'm going to make just the first letter. Okay, let's check our work, pressing W, and that looks pretty good. So that's one way from working off of a starting file.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That way, like working from scratch, like great, but it's probably best to work off of already started files.
I was gonna say that seemed a lot easier than like doing something from scratch.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna leave it here.
Okay.
But I need 2 signs, right? So let's say rather than creating a whole other file, I'm just going to add a second page. So in this case, I can press Control E and I can get my dental day sign, export that as a PDF. I want all because I only have one page. I do want to view the PDF after. The bleeds, I need to make sure that it's using the document bleeds. And because this file is pretty large, we're going to get a large sign. Our bleed does go up to at least 1/2 inch. So that's why that's looking like that rather than the standard 0.25. So I'm going to press export. And here it is. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to send that off to the person that gets it printed for us. And then we have our sign. So let's say I needed a second sign. So in this case, I'm going to go to pages and I'm going to hit create new page. I know that it's going to look pretty much exactly the same with a few variances. So all I'm going to do is just select everything. Let's see. Oh, let me make sure that if you do want to copy stuff over, you need to unlock them so that you can actually play with them.
Oh, yeah.
So I am going to just select everything except for this little thing. By the way, to unselect something that you don't want while everything else is selected, hold down Shift and then click that item that you don't want selected. So after here, I'm going to hit Control C for copy. I'm going to move down to my second page and watch as the layers change. and then I'm going to click right here. So suddenly we don't have anything. And it's because we're now working on the second page. We don't have anything. So you'll notice when you start working in Illustrator that it does not have the same capability. So sometimes you can work on, like, let's say you want to work on certain pages, which is kind of important, why it's important to determine what program you want to work on for what end result you want to have. We know that we want to have different signs made, but we also don't want to have like multiple InDesign files or multiple Illustrator files. So we're just going to work off of this one. And the cool thing is that you're not going to have a plethora of layers to sort through per page, because as soon as you go to the other page, those layers will pop up. So let's go back here. Everything we have is still copied to our clipboard. I'm going to right click and paste in place, and it'll all go where I need it to go. So let's say that this is a sign when they're already inside. So they don't need to be welcomed. They need more information, right? So let's say we need to change that. Let's say for whatever reason, we have to say that the restrooms are over here. So let's just go ahead and put like, oops, restrooms. I'm going to go ahead and make that smaller rather than making the text box bigger. And I'm just going to like go through here. That can take a while, obviously. So maybe just select it all and hit 200. Still not there. Let's do 150. And it should be there, but let's see where it is. Huh. It didn't change it. Okay, it showed up as 0. Maybe it's because I had a box clicked inside. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. So I had the text clicked inside. So basically what this is saying is that everything after the fact is going to be 150 points. So like, let's say that I put restrooms more there. You see how that actually changed that? We don't want that. So let's go to select. Let's make sure that this item is selected with our selection tool, not the T tool. And now let's just put in our own number. I think I'm going to put 200. That works. I'm going to shorten this text box once again. And then I'm just going to center it to the page. And then let's say we want this to be the women's restroom. And then let's say we want to add an arrow to indicate where exactly they are. Before I do all that, I am going to shorten this text box. You saw me earlier with the restrooms do either side, this side, that side, and then recenter it.
Yes.
But you can bypass that by clicking, resizing it on one side, and at the same time holding Alt, and that'll do both sides simultaneously.
I think I remember you telling me that.
Okay, so now let's start. Let's do our arrow. So you can do that either with the line tool. I'm going to do the arrow tool just because I want to play with it. So I'm going to do something like, so just so that you can see, I can go from point A, let's say they're over here, point A to point B. We can't see anything, and that's because the line that you just created is essentially a stroke, but the stroke doesn't have a color added to it. In fact, it's even at 0. So number one, that's got to change. The fill is white, but that doesn't matter in this instance because we're not creating a shape or like a polygon. We're creating lines. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the stroke color just once and then pick one of these colors. And then I need to make this bigger because I still can't see that stroke.
Yeah.
So again, just playing with it, going up to 20, I can finally see the stroke. I'm going to change the fill to this bright pink just for showing purposes. But this is, again, if we're creating some kind of
Oh,
shape
yeah.
and we want it filled, right? We don't in our case, so we don't want to have any lines, so none. And then I can keep it on the pen tool as I have been, or I can press V to get the selection tool. It really doesn't
Okay.
matter right now,
Mm-hmm.
but we need an arrow. So I'm going to hit stroke. And if you remember, we went from point A
Mm-hmm.
to point B.
Yes.
So this one is our starting point, and this one is our ending point.
Yeah.
So when I hit stroke, and InDesign does this, I have no idea why, but it'll make it so that whenever you click something, it'll come outside of the window and you can't even get to it from your other double monitor. So what I
Oh,
do is I minimize the
okay.
application and I bring it down smaller, and then I do it again, and then suddenly it's bright where it needs to be. So I'm
Nice.
looking at this part here where it says start end,
Uh-huh.
and the start I'm gonna put none, and
Okay.
then the end I do want to have some kind of arrowhead.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use this simple one, let's say, and
Okay.
that looks good. That's just how it is. But if I take a step back, that's really, I mean, yeah, if I need to go to the restroom, yeah, that's a sign that tells me where I need to go, but it just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So it looks a little out of place. It's so small. I want this arrowhead to be bigger. I want the stroke to be bigger. So I'm going to start off with the stroke and then just double that. Let's say 40. Okay. And then you'll also see that the arrowhead changed along with it. You
Mm-hmm.
can change that as well. So for example, if you don't like that it came up as big as your stroke did, you can just
Yeah.
lessen this part. So once you
Oh.
click stroke again, right under the arrow, it'll have a percentage. You
Uh-huh.
can go to 50% and then you'll get
Oh.
a smaller arrow. But look what happens. Your
Yeah.
stroke is now bigger than the arrow. So let's bump that back up.
Okay.
Um, go back to 100. So that's an option there. Another option with your stroke is that it doesn't have to just be a solid line.
Okay.
You can go, once you have this selected, you won't see this stuff. You'll be looking there forever, but you won't see it unless you have the object selected. So I'm going to select it. Now I can go to the right side. I can see my stroke. I can see that it's a solid line. Don't
Mm-hmm.
want that. Let's say that I want something dashed. Okay, maybe wavy. That's kind of nice. That's interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and go stick with this like triple. That
Yeah.
looks interesting. I guess. Oh, I like that one. And then I'm also gonna change the arrowhead because I thought I saw one that kind of matched that I liked as well. Oh, I don't know. It's gonna have to be like a decision that you make, but I do
Right.
like that. I like its simplicity. I don't like how small it is. It's already at 100%. I'm gonna go ahead and just change it to 200%. And I think that's
Oh.
a lot better as well.
Yeah.
If I click on it one more time, I can extend my stroke
Okay.
and it won't affect the arrowhead size. So if I did want to make this smaller and I wanted the arrowhead to be smaller as well, I would have to go to the stroke and select this percentage to come down.
Okay.
Um, so that's one, way of kind of doing that. I'm going to show you that in this other one, I tried to make it look a little bit more fancy.
Oh, yeah.
So we're meeting upstairs. So if I show you um, what it could look like if I hit W. Um,
Oh, I
like,
like that.
yeah, like, yeah, we can have an arrow that points straight up,
Mm,
or we can just kind of have some fun and play with it a little and still convey the message.
yeah,
So I'm gonna just move this out. I might decide that I want it later, so that's why I don't necessarily delete everything that I work with. I'm gonna
yeah.
put this back up for now. And I'm gonna hit my pen tool again. And this time I'm just gonna have fun with it. I started my point there. I'm gonna click here, don't let go. And then as I'm holding down the left click, I'm dragging this out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do, I don't know, something like that. And then kind of just keep going with the like wiggle design.
Oh,
Okay. And now it's doing the same thing where we have, a fill and the stroke doesn't have a color. The stroke is 0. I can go and do all that mess again, but since I didn't delete this one, I'm just gonna copy those attributes by hitting the I button, which
okay.
will the eyedrop tool, as this is still selected. So immediately I went from the pen tool and I
Mm-hmm.
immediately went to the eyedrop tool. And
Okay.
that's still selected, and I can tell because up here it's showing that it's still selected.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to copy this arrow, and then it will
Oh,
immediately pick up all the stuff that I wanted from that.
that's very handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but sometimes you don't like how you did the first time, let's say.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fix this a little bit, even though it's going to be cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then maybe actually, oh crap, I already made this, but the women's restrooms aren't upstairs, they're to the right. So this is already done. I'm not going to do it again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to make sure nothing is selected. And I do that just by, like, if I do have something selected, I select just in the gray area into the ether, and then nothing is selected. So if
Okay.
I go to my direct selection tool, A, it allows me to select parts of the object, but not the entire object itself. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
show you now that I have the direct selection tool, sorry, that I have the selection tool. If I click on it, the entire thing gets to be clicked, right? And then if I move it
Mm-hmm.
around, the entire thing moves around.
Yeah.
But again, make sure nothing is selected. If I go to the direct selection tool, it will allow me to select only key points, and you can now see them, all the key points that we created when we created this arrow. So if I select just one of them, I can now move just that.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
So you can
And
kind of
then
like fix it if you were like to like mess up with it or something.
exactly. So I do want this to come up a little bit. However, this is showing like upstairs to the right, and that's not what we want. So I'm gonna go
Mm,
ahead and select this one as well, this little point here. And I'm gonna move that one up with it and maybe move it a little back down and something like that. So
yeah.
again, this is all uh play. You
Hmm.
play. You play while you work. How's that?
I like that.
All right. And then I'm gonna fix this curb here that I don't like.
Okay.
Uh, I'm gonna do that by selecting this little point here that we
Uh-huh.
created, and I'm just gonna move that. And these handles pop up so that I can, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
there, that looks a little bit better to me. So, and I just think that it needs to be thicker, so I'm gonna go to 60, maybe 80 or 100. Let's do
Hmm.
100. Oops, not 1,000. 100. Okay, and I like that. I like that a lot better. What I don't like is that the blues don't match. So
Yeah.
I'm going to select that and then get my eyedrop tool and select, ooh, actually that's not going to work. So that it'll just copy the attributes of that other item. So
Okay.
I am going to have to click on here on the color itself to the left,
Okay.
double click the color, and then use that eyedrop tool to go to the
Okay.
color. Hit OK, and then there you go.
Oh,
That
okay.
gives me more of like a consistency. And if I didn't want to do anything else, I think that's great. There's just way too much empty space here. So like an easy fix is to just make things bigger. Like it's fine.
Right.
So I'm gonna go to up to 250 and see how that pans out for us here.
Okay.
And then just align it center.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good. That's fine. Maybe something like that. Maybe bring this in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to show you that this wasn't happening for me when I hit the direct selection tool. It wasn't selecting just this one point that I wanted. And I actually just learned that today. So, so I learned that if I already have the object selected, it won't help me. It won't just click on this one dot that I want, which is frustrating because in Illustrator you can.
Yeah.
But you're working on the program that you're working on, so you have to play by its rules. So go back to hitting your select tool. I wonder what
Okay.
happens. Oh, or actually you could just click out into the ether, into this gray area, and now you'll see that nothing's selected. Now with my direct selection tool, which I know I have on because my cursor is white, versus the selection tool, direct selection tool. Now I can click on this one point and then boom, I can move just that bit that I wanted.
Okay.
And that kind of takes care of the problem of there being too much white space over here. And then it did create kind of a sharp angle here. So I'm just going to move this one as well and move this handle a little bit so that it doesn't, so that it doesn't look too sharp.
Yeah.
And then let's check our work. And yeah, that looks pretty good.
Cool. Yeah.
And look, the arrow kind of looks like a W. People will think that you're a design genius and you did that on purpose. So so that's that's another way of doing that. And now let's say I have my second sign. I want to export that. I guess it would have been easier if I would have just exported the whole thing and then asked them to make signs from that. But I wasn't thinking too clearly. But anyway, that's fine. It works. So I'm going to export this sign, and I only want to export this sign, not the first one that we made.
Okay.
So I'm going to hit Control E. And because we only have 2 pages, I know that it's page 2. But if you don't know what it is, go up here to the right to the pages, and then you'll see the one that you have on is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit Control E for export. Dental Day sign, we want to call it Dental Day sign page 2 or second sign. Something like that. Hit save. And now, rather than hitting all, I'm going to hit range, and look at that. It's already on the 2 for me. But if it wasn't, usually it would start with like this. It'll look like that.
Yeah.
But you'd highlight that and then put page 2. You want it pages, view PDF after exporting, check your marks and bleeds, make sure that that's on, hit export. And then you'll have your second sign that you can send off.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, okay, I'm done. And then that's it. But let's say you wanted to do another sign for the same event. That's important. And then the reason why we do it on the same one is because all of your assets and colors and pictures that you want to use are already in this file. So
Yeah.
that's why I would just hit a second page.
Okay,
And
and how do you do what where's that button at? Sorry.
oh, it's okay. Right here under pages to the right,
Okay.
down.
Oh, the little plus sign. Okay, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, create new page. And then same thing. Now let's create this one. I'm going to copy this entire thing, go down, click on, oops, click on this page. And then now look, we don't have anything on our layers. If we go here, we have all our layers.
Right.
I'm going to click here. And rather than Control V, I'm going to right click and paste in place. And now
Okay.
it's on the perfect spot. And then let's change this to, instead of women, let's say it's men. And then you can't hit V to get your direct selection tool because it's going to think that you're typing still. So you do have to go
Oh,
up to the top left and then hit
okay.
that selection tool. Oh, look at that. It says escape as well. That's new. So I want to try that. So let's say I'm typing men and then I want to escape. Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Mm.
Okay, that's new. And obviously it's not going to be the same direction. So let's just
Yeah.
select this, right click, and we're going to look for something that's called like transform. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. And I just want to flip it because let's say they're to the right, or rather they're
Yeah.
to the left.
Yeah.
So I want to not rotate it, but flip. Okay, here we go. Flip. I never know. I wish it would just tell me if it was x-axis or y-axis, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
say
That'd be a lot.
horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, but it also took it way over here. Oh, and
Okay.
that's because it flipped it at the starting point. So see how the starting
Oh,
point's up here?
yeah.
So like if I brought this up here, like yeah, it did perfectly flip that. Um,
Okay.
but that's fine. We're just gonna drag it over this way, and there you go.
Okay.
And I'm gonna move that around. So now I have my second sign. That took, not that long because we're using the
Like
same
5 seconds.
assets.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. And then you can again export that one. This one I'm gonna say, I'm gonna rename it so that it's more obvious to me. Restroom sign, men's, save. And then I know again because we're working on it, but if there was a lot, you would just go to the right to see
Yeah.
what page number it is. So
Okay.
it's the third page, view PDF after exporting. Make sure that the marks and bleeds are on, export, and then boom, there you have your third sign.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And so you can kind of just keep going around it that way, like that.
Yeah.
And then of course hit save. And if you forgot where you saved your file, because that happens to me too, pretend like you're going to save it somewhere else. So
Okay.
I would go to File, Save As, and immediately it tells you where it's being saved.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever forget, and then don't save it anymore, just cancel. Now you
Right.
know where to
To see
find
where it's
it.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just go ahead and hit cancel. And then if you notice, I have a bunch of assets around here, like off to the side, because I feel like I might want to use them just in case. I don't want to get rid of them if I decided, oh, I need them and I already did the effort of creating this. So that's why I leave them there.
So will they always
Sometimes,
like stay within this document? Like,
yeah, they'll always stay
okay.
within this document. And if for
Okay.
whatever reason you're like, actually, I don't need it, I'm fine without it. What I would do is go back to, I mean, you can recreate it, sure. But if it's like something more complicated that you spent some time on and you don't want to have to recreate, just go back to the file that you remember or to the project that you remember using something like that on and open that,
Okay.
copy that asset from there, and then go to your current project and
Okay.
you can paste it in there. So that yes, save that. That's my real one. And then that's it. I'm gonna go
Okay.
ahead and stop recording for now.
Okay.